on the west coast of Africa, in Portuguese Guinea, a country twice the size of Wales. These people don't want to be called Portuguese and are fighting for their independence. Their war is a miniature Vietnam. They claim the Viet Cong are their cousins. But theirs is not a headline war. World in Action joined one of their patrols to film their side of guerrilla warfare, to see one of those wars normally referred to in reports which begin Africa, 1900, at the peak of European imperialism. 2 countries only are independent of Europe. But as the century goes on, ideas change. The European powers become entangled in the 2 great wars, and African responsibilities are shed, sometimes violently, sometimes nostalgically, sometimes with no regrets. But in one fashion or another, independence spreads steadily across the continent. Except for the 3 Portuguese territories. In Angola, war began in 1961, in Mozambique in 1963. These conflicts are reported quite regularly, yet in 1962, another more successful but almost ignored war of independence broke out in tiny Portuguese Guinea. These are the kind of rebels Lisbon faces there. Juan Bernardo Vieira, nicknamed Nino, formerly an electrician, now one of the top 15 men in the rebel movement, aged 28, trained in Cuba and Czechoslovakia. Constantine dos Santos Teixeira, Chuchu to his friends, aged 34, a Portuguese army deserter, now military commander of the South Front. Paulo Correa, aged 27, was a bus driver, is now a political commissar. Both these men have been trained in guerrilla warfare at the Nanking Military Academy in communist China. Constantine's other nickname is Westmoreland. Lando Mani, aged 32, married with 4 children, all girls. A peasant farmer who has been a unit commander for 4 years. He still carries a bullet in his thigh from an attack in 1966. Lando Mani was our unit commander. João Vieira, medical orderly, aged 60. Married with 13 children, a peasant farmer all his life. He had 3 months hospital training abroad after joining the movement in 1961. And the ordinary soldiers. Friday, January the 12th. A guerrilla unit is being formed out of the remnants of old ones. They are 7 days away from the action we are to see, an attack on a Portuguese garrison of 600 troops. These are the armed forces of the movement that calls itself the African Party for the Independence of Guinea and the Cape Verde Islands, the PAIGC. All are unpaid volunteers. And finally, Amilcar Cabral, aged 43, Secretary General and founder of the party in 1956. One of only 14 Africans from Guinea ever to gain a university degree under the Portuguese. Trained in Lisbon as an agricultural engineer, he comes from the same student generation that produced the rebel leaders in Angola and Mozambique.
We think that all the time there still be colonies in Africa. Africa will not be really independent. We think that our people have the obligation to liberate our country, see, to contribute for the liberation of Africa. We think that doing what we are doing, we are proving that we are Africans, we are men, and we are conscious of our rights in the context of the story of our time.
Black hand.
Black hand.
Black hand.
Black hand.
That is it. That is it. Black hand.
This is the movement's only permanent base, just outside Portuguese territory in the friendly neighboring country of Guinea, an old French colony. Once they leave here, the guerrillas will be on foot all the way. This is the unit we are to live with. 52 men, 48 of them peasant farmers, 1 electrician, 2 dockers, 1 domestic servant. Average age 20. The youngest 15, the oldest 33. This particular group comes entirely from 2 tribes. 45 of them are Balant, the biggest tribe in the country, who were only finally subdued by the Portuguese in 1936 after 50 years of sporadic fighting. The other 8 are from one of the smallest tribes, the Beofada, including our commandant, Lando Mane. To combat units like this, the Portuguese have raised their forces to 40,000 men this year. The PAIGC was founded in 1956. For 3 years, it claims to have tried negotiating with the Portuguese. When negotiations failed, they started political agitation in preparation for war. In 1962, they opened their first front in the south. The next year, with the support of Senegal, they opened up from the north, and finally, in 1964, they started in the east. In each zone, with the active support of the village population, small units like ours have gradually immobilized the Portuguese in the towns, in isolated garrisons, and in what the Americans would call strategic hamlets. The guerrillas now control 2/3 of the countryside. A PAIGC military unit is called a B Group. This is ours, B Group 30. They are preparing for a series of hit-and-run raids in the south. We will be at the first in 7 days' time.
Corno, Carole. Brama Kasamba. Brama Kasamba.
In this army, there are no badges of rank. They shake hands rather than salute. The briefing is friendly and simple.
Your commandant is Comrade Lando Mane. Your political commissar is Comrade Coutin Lopes. You have 2 section leaders, Comrade Infanso Nanke and Comrade Insumba Beran. These 4 have been entrusted with command by the party. I'm sure they will give out wise orders. These 4 are your commanders, and you must obey them.
The group carries 4.27 bazookas made in Czechoslovakia, 6 7.92mm machine guns, Czech reproductions of a German design, 12 7.62mm submachine guns made in Russia, 12 7.62mm semi-automatic rifles made in Russia, plus for 12 men, 6 defensive hand grenades each, made in Russia. Over the border, they can call on supplies of mortars, cannons, anti-aircraft guns and mines.
You are B Group 30. You are going to operate in the South Front. I hope always to hear good reports of your actions.
By dawn the next day, we are across the border into Portuguese Guinea. The guerrillas call this part liberated territory, for the Portuguese are rarely seen here now. Each man carries about 30 pounds. They move stealthily with ears tuned for the planes that hunt them. They're proud of the speed they march at. A line from one of their songs goes, "The guerrilla walks freely on the ground, while the little Portuguese flies high, commanding the clouds."
We hope that with Portugal we can get very good relations after independence in all fields. Our fight is only against the Portuguese colonialism, the foreign domination in our country. But we never fight against the Portuguese people. Contrary, we hope to develop, to consolidate the friendship with the Portuguese people. For us, any government in Portugal, it will be good for us to have relations. One condition only, we have our right to self-determination and to the independence of our country like an African people. A big group.
40 miles inside Portuguese territory, we have made contact with the field command. Constantine, military commander of the whole South Front, has about 2,000 guerrillas to set against nearly 13,000 government troops in his area. B Group 30 is assigned its targets. Every move they make is discussed. It's hard to pick out the moment when an order is given, since in this army, the most junior soldier is encouraged to query, discuss, argue, all but change what he's supposed to do. This is the reconnaissance patrol that will precede the attack. The unannounced pinprick raids of units like this caused 2,500 Portuguese casualties last year and forced the Lisbon government to spend £12 million on policing the territory with troops. Their fight is for independence and for the creation of some pitiful signs of civilization like this jungle clinic they built 2 years ago.
We had in our country some years ago only 12 doctors for all the country and 45 schools, one college only, but no university at all. You can see what kind of civilization Portuguese gave us. We now assure the medical assistance for a great part of the population of the liberated zones. And we could do better if we get medicines, enough medicines. We now have more nurses in the liberated zone than in all the time of colonialism in our country. If you join all the nurses in our country during all the colonialism, is less nurses than now.
The reconnaissance patrol has been away 36 hours. The leisured, handshaking routine is typical of their informal approach to their fight. But it's also a part of their philosophy. They are not military men, and they are not interested in becoming military men. Independence is not something to set a deadline for. It's the inevitable outcome of their hit-and-run tactics and the logic of events in Africa as a whole. Their purpose is to sting and not be seen, to prick the nerves of the Portuguese army so that in the end they will withdraw completely from Guinea. Meantime, the movement prepares the country to run itself, and it does this first by welding a sense of national unity to replace the years of isolated tribal resistance. And behind the armed struggle, they build a civilian organization. The strength of the guerrilla soldier is his stealth, invisibility, and capacity for surprise. Mostly they strike at night. By day, they're hunted by Portuguese planes whose drone is never far away.
Sì. Non metti forza di cos'è? Un gruppo lì. Per finire forza atrás.
Tens que não por copar.
Ali está entrado sempre. Desde o princípio da guerra está entrado.
Só para lá.
Vale, e mate cerrado. E tem esse campo mesmo, e sempre lá morto.
This is an ordinary peasant village. It is dawn and the entire population has cleared out. They will only return after dusk when the threat from the bombers has gone.
A people who are determined to rise against their masters and have the faith to continue the struggle must always reckon with the harsh measures which will be taken against them and must be ready to face them. Otherwise, it is better they should stay quiet. General George Grievous, Cyprus leader.
This village, population 300, has been bombed 26 times since the war began. These are the civilian scars of guerrilla warfare. The United Nations has twice pleaded with the rest of the world to ban arms sales to Portugal. Portugal is a member of NATO. This napalm is NATO equipment.
We think that the Western powers cannot give aid to us because they are the allies of Portugal. I have been in London and I met some people and I put our problems, our needs. Until today, nothing. Even one of my colleagues of the organization have been in London to contact the Red Cross. And the people of the Red Cross, the English Red Cross, told her that she has to contact the Portuguese Red Cross.
Six o'clock in the morning. A party from the local village has brought the day's food. Each man has a couple of handfuls of rice and any fruit he can chop down in the jungle. On this, he happily averages 40 miles a day, fully loaded. They in fact eat rather less than an English fashion model in strict training. Each village has an elected committee of 5 who run the village and are responsible for supplying food to the military units. They also supply porters when extra arms or ammunition have to be taken on a mission. This village will supply 15 young boys and girls today to carry 3 Russian 82mm cannons to within a mile of the attack. Sick parade for guerrilla soldiers. To qualify as wounded, a guerrilla fighter has to be virtually half dead. He will then be sent to the base hospital across the border, but even that had no antibiotics when we went there. Shrapnel in the skull, Orlando's bullet crease across the inside of his right thigh don't qualify. Some primitive running repairs by Juon, and they'll be ready to fight again. Supplies of ammunition come from Russia, from Communist China, from Czechoslovakia, from Algeria, from North Korea, from Yugoslavia, from East Germany, from Cuba. The inspiration for these guerrilla fighters comes, they admit, from North Vietnam. They call themselves nationalists, but predictably they are labelled communists. The Portuguese classify them as the tools of communism. This is what a Lisbon cabinet minister had to say.
We are going to fight savages. We are going to fight wild beasts who are not Portuguese because they obey orders from international communism. We are face to face with terrorists who have to be fought as wild beasts are fought. Portuguese Army Minister speaking to units en route to Africa.
In his final pep talk, Paulo tells them this attack is made doubly important by the presence of a Western film crew, which puts the eyes of the world upon them. It gives them a great opportunity to demonstrate that they are not savages. Barely 24 of his audience have ever been to a cinema. He reminds them that each man in each attack is contributing to the party's program of independence. They have a tough march ahead of them and a well-defended target at the end of it, but he is sure they will acquit themselves well. The ambition of these men is not to destroy an enemy. It is to achieve the dignity of civilization the enemy possesses. For these illiterate peasant farmers, dignity is education. This school, hidden from the aerial bombardment in a jungle clearing, is one of 159 founded by the movement in the liberated zones since the war began. Before that, there were only 45 schools for Africans in the whole country, and most of those were thanks to missionary charity. Before the war, there were only 45 teachers. Now, there are 220. Before the war, no one in B Group 30 could read. Now, 7 can. Lando Mani, guerrilla commander, 32. His proudest achievement, he learned to read at the age of 31.
Africano conselheiro é produzir comissário político do comando da frente norte.
Invariably, party bulletins are their reading matter. Though even locked in the jungle of Western Africa, they are not immune to the full range of world propaganda.
And an opinion about the responsibilities of the news media. Georgetown University made. The official Chinese news services have now begun to warn people that all the political quarreling now going on could lead to that. Music will be provided by Pearl Bailey and Richard Hammond. To begin their training and then to move on, with the assumption that perhaps a third of those would be unsuitable, but the jobs could be found for perhaps two-thirds.
What is that?
We are committed only with the freedom and the dignity of our people. Is the fundamental for us. We are not fighting for an ideology. We're not fighting for the capitalism or for the communism in our country. We are fighting for the independence of our people.
We are 2 hours from the attack, and at this point vulnerable from the air. The last few miles are through swamps and across rivers. The stench is as strong as the suction.
Si prende un panne, non che ora un panne.
Baba, dove torna la scherra? Asen nazmo.
The man in front, on the right, is still healing a bullet wound in his right foot. The ferryman is yet another part of the volunteer civilian supply system that gives the movement its integrated strength.
Our army is not a military organization like the other armies you know. You see, our army is an instrument of our people to fight for independence. It developed from nothing until now what you have seen, you see. But the principal character of our army is that we are not military people. We are armed militants, you see. And after independence, after have realized our goal, the major part of these people have to go back to cultivate the soil.
4:30 in the afternoon, Saturday, January the 20th. B Group 30 gets into position. The Portuguese garrison of Buba. Range 900 meters across the Balama River. Garrison strength 600. Civilian population 200. Regional command center for the Portuguese. To the right of B Group 30, B Group 17 and B Group 5 prepare for a simultaneous attack. Buba has been attacked 9 times before. In addition to 600 troops, there are a fighter-bomber airfield, oil storage tanks, and a radio station. .5:05, Saturday afternoon, January the 20th. .12 minutes of hit-and-run standoff attack. The Portuguese were taken completely by surprise. Apart from small arms fire, their only response was some overranged mortars. Casualties on the guerrilla side, 6 wounded. On the Portuguese side, the oil dump in flames and enough wounded to fill a relay of helicopters for several hours. One more typical small action is over. B Group 30 will be in another in 2 days' time.